Bio-based diesel supporters are asking EPA to reconsider mandated usage levels under the renewable fuel standard. The push is on to define used cooking oil. And USDA has asked for comments on climate-smart ag practices. We'll jump into all three issues. And Midwest floods create a ton of shipping problems. We'll break it all down.
Live from the Breakdown via Farm Journal Studios, this is AgriTalk. This morning we begin with a conversation with Kurt Kovarik from the Clean Fuels Alliance. Then it's Mike Steenhoek from the Soy Transportation Coalition. Directly following the news, Greg Henderson from Drovers. I'm handsome newsman Davis Michelson. Now, welcome the host of AgriTalk, Chip Flory.
All right, Davis. Hey, thank you so much. Welcome to AgriTalk. I am Chip Flory. Glad that you are joining us on this Thursday morning. Dude, it's report day. We get the quarterly Hogs and Pigs report out this afternoon.
Okay.
So just to make sure that everybody knows what is expected there, analysts expect USDA's Hogs and Pigs report this afternoon to show the U.S. hog herd increased 0.8% from a year ago on June 1. Market hog inventory is expected to be up 1.2%. Breeding herd is expected to be down 2.7%. But even with that smaller breeding herd and a slight decline in farrowings, the pig crop is expected to be bigger because of more pigs saved per litter. So almost a 1% increase in the spring pig crop. And then as we look forward, the farrowing intentions are sliding 1 to 1.5% for the summer and fall. So report day, there you go. There's the expectations. June 1, all hogs and pigs expected to be up slightly.
Okay, and lean hogs are just slightly lower this morning. The July down a dime to the Feb. We're off 40 cents is all today.
Yeah. You're exactly right in saying we're only down 40 cents in that market.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we've got Kurt Kovarik coming up in just a bit. We've got a lot of issues that we want to talk about in the bio-based diesel arena, and then we're going to talk about some shipping issues with Mike Steenhoek. Looking forward to all that. All right, Let's get to it. What you got, buddy?
Well, Chip, the National Weather Service is calling for severe thunderstorms capable of very large hail and damaging wind gusts around 80 miles per hour. This is across portions of the central and northern plains today into the nighttime hours. Furthermore, locally heavy rainfall may result in isolated instances of flash flooding. Monsoon-like conditions persist for the Four Corners region where additional flooding is possible through tonight. Chip, when it rains, it pours has never been more true. We keep seeing these same areas. We saw it earlier this year with North Texas, and now we're seeing it through the Midwest and in the Four Corners region. Dude.
Right. Yeah, every time we get more rain on already soaked soils, it's creating issues for the guys in those areas, no doubt.
Well, Chip, private exporters reported sales of 120,000 metric tons of soybeans for delivery to unknown destinations during the 24-25 marketing year. Do we have any idea who this might be, Chip?
Yeah, it's got to be. I would say it's got to be China in this case. And I'm one that will normally say, don't assume that it's China when we see unknown. In this case, just simply because China is so underbought on its new crop bean needs. I got to believe that this is China getting some coverage.
Ooh, look here, breaking news. August lean hogs now switch to positive, up a nickel on the day. Huh? How do you like them apples? Tonight will be the first debate between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump and will likely determine who will be the next president, say several observers. There will not be a live audience. There will be no interruptions. Microphones will be muted unless it's the candidate's turn to speak. The debate begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, lasts 90 minutes, including 2 commercial breaks. More than half of the U.S. adult population will be watching the showdown, with 57% of the public saying they are extremely or very likely to tune in to at least some of the debate or some of the follow-up commentary. I reckon we'll talk about it on the free-for-all tomorrow. What do you expect?
I reckon we will. You going to tailgate in front of this, or what are your plans?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
It's the first tailgating opportunity of the election season, and it comes early. Well, USDA will soon announce financial aid for dairy farmers affected by HPAI through the Emergency Assistance for Livestock, Honeybees, and Farm-Raised Fish program. The aid will cover 28 days of milk loss per cow over a 134-day period based on the monthly all-milk price and expected milk production per cow. And I didn't put it in here, Chip. We haven't really talked much about it, but testing, they're starting to do more tank testing and batch testing and things like that. Lots more testing happening here on the HPAI.
Exactly. And don't forget what Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Nagg told us earlier this week. He is pushing for compensation for cows that were lost, that died from HPAI, or had to be called after being infected with HPAI.
Well, Chip, U.S. ag groups reacted to USDA's latest proposed Packers and Stockyards rule titled Fair and Competitive Livestock and Poultry Markets. National Cattlemen's Beef Association Vice President of Government Affairs Ethan Lane calls the proposed rule, quote, a direct attack on cattle producer profitability.
But boy, there are others out there that are saying this is the best thing since sliced bread because it's going to give the ability to break up the meat packer cartel that is out there. So there are producers on both sides of this issue, no question.
Well, Chip, the recent flooding in the northwestern Corn Belt has led to significant disruptions in ag operations, prompting the issuance of force majeure declarations from multiple plants in the region. The situation is expected to result in shortages of finished products and delays in grain shipments. The force majeure declarations for corn shipping stations were based on flooding along the Illinois River, and we'll have Mike Steenhoek from the Soy Transportation Coalition for more later. Chip.
Exactly. All right, let's bring in Greg Henderson, Editorial Director, Drovers. How you doing, Greg?
Good morning, Chip. I'm fine, thank you.
That is a monster of a feedlot that's going up out in Nebraska. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Chip, despite the smallest cow herd in 73 years and the smaller feeder cattle supplies, there is a group of investors putting together a 150,000 head feed yard in southwest Nebraska, and it's all going to be on concrete, Chip. That's a square mile on concrete. And these people are using what they call a closed loop system, and this is specifically being designed as a beef on dairy feedlot. And the closed loop system includes a semen provider working with dairies to, get the right matings. And then there's a contract with the dairies in the feed yard. So this feed yard will not be competing for feeder cattle in the open market because they're contracting all of their needs through these dairies. So that's the closed loop, Chip. Yep. And they'll all be identified with animal ID, so we'll know performance and efficiency data, and to further improve the matings for future generations. Yeah. It's really an innovation into the feeding sector through the beef on dairy. Wow, it's a big project. There will also be a biodigester, which is the reason for the concrete, where we can pick up the manure and use it. But wow, it's a crazy.
I can't wait to see this thing. It's going to be impressive. You and I, we've been talking about how beef on dairy was going to change the industry. Well, here it is. It's changing, and now they're using the data and the technology to accelerate the genetic performance of these animals. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Greg Henderson, thanks, buddy. Editorial Director at Drovers.
AgriTalk is brought to you by United Animal Health, scientifically better animal nutrition. Learn more at unitedanh.com. Hey, Chip.
Hey, Davis.
When this bump plays,
yeah.
Do you think people owe neither if we're going to talk about the movie and use fake words and things like that? Do you think they owe neither that?
There's no question. Well, I often owe neither if we're going to get into a conversation about the wonders and everything that goes on around that. Thank you, Davis.
The way I see it, every day that starts out with the Oneaters is an Oneaterful day. That's where I come from.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm your host, Chip Flory. That is the Oneater, Davis Michelson. And let's get into this conversation about what's going on in some of the biofuels arena. We've got Kurt Kovarik, VP Federal Affairs for the Clean Fuels Alliance America. Kurt joins us right now. Hey, Kurt, how you doing, man?
I'm doing extraordinarily well, Chip. Glad to be with you.
Glad that you are here because, boy, talk about some news, and you guys are right in the middle of it right now. You filed a formal petition asking EPA to reconsider RFS volumes for 2024 and 2025. What is that all about, Kurt?
Yeah, great question. So what we had was in June of last year, EPA set volumes for all fuels under the Renewable Fuel Standard for 2023, 2024, and 2025, a 3-year period. We were terribly disappointed in the volumes that they set last June and predicted that we would have reduced capacity, reduced investment, both in production of the fuel as well as expansions in the soy crush that we were anticipating. And to some extent, that is borne out. And what we did on Monday was we filed, it's not litigation, but it is a formal petition requesting that the EPA administrator reopen that renewable volume obligation proposal and adjust upward the volumes for 2024 and 2025 based on the fact that production trends were exactly where we predicted. And to give you kind of in clear terms what this means, in 2023, our industry produced 4.6 billion gallons of fuel, yet the volumes that EPA set were right around 3 billion. So 1.5 billion gallons above what EPA set. And you might say, well, what's the impact of that? Well, the impact of that is it sends the wrong signal to the industry. We have reduced prices for commodities. We have plant closures. We've had a plant close in Iowa and one in Wisconsin. And so what does that mean? It's all foregone economic activity in rural America. It's less fuel. It's less energy security. And it's more carbon emissions. So our ask is that EPA reopen it based on real world data and hopefully adjust those volumes upward as a result.
Okay. The way I see this, Kurt, is really what we're looking for is the investors need the certainty that comes along with the mandated usage levels. And they've been conditioned to expect that, haven't they?
It's all about the market signals. And that's what we had leading into 2023. We had just had the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act that created new tax incentives for biofuels based on carbon intensity. And we had somewhat robust volumes under the RFS. We were hoping that trend would continue, and EPA had that opportunity with a 3-year set, and they did the exact opposite. I mean, they over the 3-year period, the final proposal that they set had us increasing volumes by 600 million gallons over the full 3-year RVO proposal. But we increased production from 22 to 23 by a full billion gallons. We'd already blown through the volume increases in the first 5 months of 2023 that EPA had available to them when they finalized the proposal. So it's just completely disconnected with reality. And our point is it has real world implications and you need to fix it.
Right. I think the bottom line to this, Kurt, is that the market is demanding more than what is included in the RFS. Is that kind of the bottom line? It
is kind of, and the good thing is maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago, the RFS was the only policy driving low carbon biofuels. Today, it's kind of a 3-legged stool. We've got the Renewable Fuel Standard, we've got state low carbon fuel policies or mandates and incentives throughout the Midwest, and we also have corporate boardroom policies are driving it. And right now, what we're seeing is rail wants low carbon biomass based diesel because they've got no other alternative to decarbonize. Cargo, cruise lines, aviation, home heat, all of these industries are looking for solutions that are to some extent being thrust upon them. Some of them are self-initiated, and that is to reduce carbon to respond to global changes in climate. And many of these transportation sectors and in home heating, our fuel is essentially a drop-in fuel that delivers immediately on average of 75% less carbon emissions.
Right.
They want more fuel, but to facilitate that, you've got to have government policies that also support that build out and support that market growth.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, the buildup of the market in that home heating market in the Northeast, Kurt, we talk about a success story. It's incredible what's happened up there, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a 4 billion gallon market. And, I grew up in the Midwest. I really didn't have any understanding of what oil heat was until I got engaged in this industry and we started looking at the industry in the Northeast. But it's basically family owned small business enterprises who deliver that oil heat to all these residences who many times have the oil heat tank right in their basement. And
yep.
I think there's a lot of folks who think, oh, well, we can replace all of this with heat pumps or electric or natural gas. Well, the fact of the matter is you can't, either because the logistics won't facilitate it, or most often the cost is prohibitive. I mean, $20,000 to $40,000 to retrofit a house to put in an electric heat pump, or do you want to just put in bioheat, 100% biomass-based diesel, and get you 80% of the way there, cleaner burning, less toxic emissions than petroleum? It's a win-win. So that is a great market for our industry, and one that we're hoping to really, get a foothold in.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But that's the case across. We have all this. Everyone wants to talk about sustainable aviation fuel and decarbonizing over-the-road trucking and construction equipment. That's not going to happen through electrification. I'm not sure the last time you were on an airplane that was battery powered or plugged in. I haven't seen one. So I think it makes sense to facilitate policies that get you the lowest cost, easiest to deploy technology, and that happens to be farmer produced biomass-based diesel. Okay.
There's also an effort on to get a clear definition of used cooking oil. I can't believe that we need to go through this, but here we are. It's the current state of the way things are. What's the situation here?
Yeah. Well, and this is a complicated issue because, the question comes down to, and, this is being driven by the demand for low carbon intensity feedstocks. And as you know, our industry produces biomass-based diesel from a whole host of feedstocks, whether it's soy or canola oil, animal fats, distillers corn oil, and used cooking oil. We've seen kind of a global trade now in these low CI feedstocks. Some people, that may disagree generally with the reliance upon foreign feedstocks. Some are concerned about whether the feedstock is what it's claimed to be. Our view is we absolutely want to maintain the integrity of both the renewable fuel standard, our trade laws, our tax laws, to ensure that the feedstock is what it's being conveyed. Fraud has no place in our industry, would give us all a black eye. We need to do everything we can to address any kind of fraudulent activity. Beyond that, I recognize that there's a little bit of anxiety about the use of foreign feedstocks. My response would be, this is a problem that EPA created with low RVOs. If the RVOs matched where the industry was, we'd have demand, significant demand for all feedstocks. And don't forget, we're using right now record levels of soybean oil in the biomass-based diesel industry, more than 1 billion pounds a month, consistently going back, I think, to May of last year. We're the leading user of soybean oil. So I want to dispel any myths that the global trade of feedstocks is somehow displacing domestic feedstocks. It's not. Where all demand for feedstocks is growing, which is a good thing, and we wish that it would be supported even further by higher RVOs from EPA to grow that domestic demand even greater.
Right. Okay, Kurt, we are out of time. I would love to get into the USDA request for information regarding the climate smart ag practices. We're going to have to do that again some other time. Hopefully we'll get you back on here soon and we can do that, okay?
Would be happy to. Always glad to be with you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Kurt. That is Kurt Kovarik, VP Federal Affairs for the Clean Fuels Alliance America. All right, we're going to be talking about some shipping issues. We've got Mike Steenhoek from the Soy Transportation Coalition next. Welcome to this episode of the Soy Checkoff Check-in. I'm AgriTalk host Chip Flory, and welcome back to Lucas Lentsch, CEO of the United Soybean Board. Lucas, here you are, 6 months into the new job as CEO. What have you learned in the first 6 months?
You know, Chip, from December all the way through till now, it has been kind of a fever pitch sprint, but I will say time with farmers has been absolutely top of mind. You know, when you think about being CEO, I like to remind folks it isn't about the office. It isn't about me. It really is about being a steward of the farmer's office, though. And there's no better way to learn that than spending time with the board, whether that's in formal business settings or out on their farm. And right now, I'm coming up on having finished 44 of 77 farm visits and feeling really good about seeing the farmers. You know, if you've been on one farm, Chip, you've been on one farm. And this year, all the challenges that the farmers are facing, it really drives me, you know, when I'm back at the office with the team, with the crew, with the folks that we work with and through in order to deliver on behalf of America's soybean farmers, it really brings it home for me. And I have a fire in my belly, as they say, for the work because of what I'm seeing from the farmers firsthand on their farms.
What does that fire in your belly turn into as you're looking forward to the next 6 months?
Yeah, well, there's really three legs of the stool that I'm focused in on. Number one, being as proactive as we can in supporting our number one customer, and that's animal agriculture. The second leg of that stool is energy independence. You know, what are we doing to create energy for not only that's sustainable, but that is a drop-in replacement in all petroleum-based products. And really the third is the consumer innovations, not just domestically, but also internationally. What are the customers of tomorrow looking for globally? But here at home, what are the innovations that might be something you pick up in consumer goods or frankly, even an industrial application in asphalt? All of that are the dynamic aspects of demand creation that ensures there's value in the supply chain waiting for farmers.
Lucas, this month on the Soy Checkoff Check-in, we've been talking about biodiesel, and I don't know how well known this is, but to everyone out there, Lucas is a veteran. He's seen the oil fields while deployed in the Middle East. And Lucas, after that experience, talk to me about the importance of something that you mentioned, the energy independence of this country, and how soy-based biofuels are part of that.
Yeah, you know, there's been a feeling that I've had over the years, and in fact, it was 20 years ago now. In fact, this year, 20 years ago, that I found myself in the Middle East and serving in Iraq. And, you know, as I reflect on that, I just remember those feelings of understanding the energy dependence that we had as a country and still have on foreign oil and foreign energy. And the opportunity that instead of on the oil fields of a foreign country, you know, to really rely on the cornfields and the soybean fields of America. To me, that's a noble pursuit. Not only is it one that's sustainable and you can grow your energy by way of using your agricultural assets in our country, but that energy independence is also national security. And to me, that connectivity is essential.
Yep, excellent. Well, the preference for sustainable fuel sources like biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel, it's growing. It's getting bigger all the time. Tell me about soy's availability to be that drop-in replacement for sustainability and how soybean farmers are helping to drive that demand.
Yeah, there's really two sides of that coin, and I get to work on one side of it. You know, the policies of our country drive the conversation on what renewable fuels and carbon intensity scores and all of that noise that's in and around driving demand creation. There's policy that actually, whether it's coming out of DC or other states like California, really focusing in on what's needed and how soy fits into that. I would just say on the checkoff side, I'm focused on the research. What's the research that those policymakers need in order to make well-informed decisions about soy's not only ability to be a drop-in replacement, but a truly sustainable answer in the conversation, and not letting arbitrary policies all of a sudden drive a completely different demand creation that takes us right back into, you know, importing used cooking oil from other countries. It's nonsensical to me. So I want to make sure that whatever we're doing is driving volume and value for America's soybean farmers. And the best way I can do that as CEO here at United Soybean Board is to ensure we've got adequate research and the right kind of professional network to help drive that decision making.
Excellent. And you can learn more about that research at the United Soybean Board. Just go to unitedsoybean.org. Lucas, thank you so much.
Chip, always a pleasure, and thanks for talking energy today. We've got a lot to invest in for the future.
We certainly do. That is Lucas Lentsch, CEO of the United Soybean Board. I'm AgriTalk host Chip Flory. Now, let's get back to today's AgriTalk.
Opinions expressed on AgriTalk do not necessarily reflect the views of Farm Journal Broadcasting, affiliate stations, or sponsors. We don't make the news, we render it. AgriTalk.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm your host, Chip Flory. Glad that you are with us. We've been trying to stay up with all of the issues created by the high waters in areas of the Midwest, along the Mississippi, along the Missouri River. You look at some of the flooding of towns in northwest Iowa in particular, but southern Minnesota is included in that. We've got the Vermilion River is creating all kinds of issues in South Dakota. So it is regionalized, but it is certainly not isolated, these flooding events. And whenever we get into this, we always think about what might this be doing to our ability to move product and grains around the Midwest. And when we think about that, I always think, I wonder what Mike's looking at. Mike Steenhoek, the executive director of the Soy Transportation Coalition, joins us right now. Hey, Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, Chip. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So there you go. You heard the intro into the conversation. What are you focused on right now? Where seems to be where areas might be developing some issues?
Yeah, so you really had kind of the big flash moment this past weekend when you had these areas be inundated with 10, 12, 17 inches of rain in a short period of time. But then that'll have an immediate impact on infrastructure like a gravel road, or very dramatically, you saw this BNSF railroad bridge that collapsed over the Big Sioux River near Sioux City.
Yeah.
But then what happens is that subsequent surge of water then really has a tax on the levee system for these small, medium, or even larger rivers like the Missouri River, and just kind of watching to see what's happening with that. And you're seeing some examples of some of these levees that are breaking that feed into the Missouri River. So that's something that's obviously a real concern for us moving forward. But I think, the temptation is to think for people to say, well, that is a regional problem. My heart goes out to them, but how is that going to impact me? I'm geographically far removed from it. And one of the things that we always continue to learn and see reinforced to us when it comes to supply chain issues is that a disruption over there will eventually have an impact on me over here. And a really good example of that is, so that this railroad bridge in near Sioux City closed. Well, BNSF Railway's remedy for that, they had to reroute traffic, was to have it go through Creston, Iowa. Well, Creston, Iowa is, for those of you who know the geography of the state, that's in the south central part of Iowa. So what they're doing is they're rerouting it onto their main line that runs east and west through about 2/3 the way down south, 3/4 the way down south through the state of Iowa. Well, now all of a sudden, that area of the state is far removed from, and that entire network, far removed from the actual inundation of water. But yet all of a sudden you've got additional freight and additional demand for that infrastructure in your area. So you constantly see that happening, is how it has an impact, not just confined to the problem area, if you will, but it can really extend throughout the whole network.
Well, yeah. What are you hearing on that bridge up there, Mike, is there any indication from BNSF what the future might be for that bridge?
Yeah, I mean the thing is it's going to take a period of time. First of all, you have to kind of let the waters recede, and then to be able to assess what kind of damage was done to the substructure, the actual ground itself, and then you develop your plan accordingly. And so it is going to take a considerable period of time to see that get eventually remedied. Something else that is important to keep in mind is, a lot of people may think, well, there's not a lot of soybean exports that occur during this time of the year. So fortunately, that's maybe that's a silver lining, and that is true. But that whole corridor of the country, this northwest quadrant of Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, parts of Nebraska, is responsible for a sizable portion of our soybean processing capacity as a nation.
Yep.
And those are facilities that have 365-day inbound and 365-day outbound, because it's a plant. It's processing soybeans. And a lot of that freight ends up going over that very that infrastructure to maybe the livestock industry or to the Pacific Northwest for export. So this is the infrastructure that's going to have an impact on those products, which obviously is a concern for us.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the investment that AGP is making in moving, adding on to their crush facilities, and they are looking at moving that soybean meal into the PNW. It just feels like that's going to everything that's happening right now is going to have an impact on how that develops and how quickly that market develops out to the PNW, won't it?
Yeah, and it impacts the farmers on the inbound. So if a bridge gets washed out, or a rural road, but then it also has an impact on the outbound, and that's going to be a rail journey, obviously about a 5-day rail journey to the Pacific Northwest, Grace Harbor, and particularly for AGP, and that infrastructure has now been compromised. Now, I think the railroads do a pretty commendable job of being able to respond to restore their network, but this is still. We're talking about railroad bridges, and we're talking about track and ballast and those kind of things. And that's a pretty big task. So it's something that's going to be with us for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the Missouri River, you mentioned it. We're keeping a close eye on some of the levees and so on. Has there been any disruption of activity on the Mississippi, or excuse me, on the Missouri?
Yeah, I mean, we're still, fortunately, river levels are receding a bit, and there's obviously been an interruption of service now. But when you kind of look at the forecast, and obviously it's all dependent on what kind of subsequent rain we receive, but hopefully we'll be, and provided that levees hold, is that we should be kind of back to some degree of normalcy. But showing just how dramatically things can change. A week ago, there was only a 4-foot difference on the Missouri River between June 20th of 2024 and June 20th of 2023. Only a 4 feet difference in water levels.
Okay.
Now there's a 20-foot difference in water levels. So just how much it can just escalate in a short period of time. And that obviously, when you throw that much water in anything, that's going to really tax the system.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. But you went straight to talking about the rail system and some of the issues that the high water is creating for it. And I think that's got to be the biggest area of disruption, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the real big concern for me.
Yep.
Just given the soybean processing that occurs up there, and then the fact that that's such an important linkage to the domestic livestock market and the Pacific Northwest.
Right. Now, it sounds like there are some issues further east, too. We've got the high water on the Mississippi. There's going to be at least some moderate flooding in the upper Mississippi River, but I don't think there's going to be any major disruption of movement on the Mississippi, is there?
I'm not anticipating that. No, I think you could have some closures of locks for a period of time because maybe the water would overreach those.
Yeah.
So that's something we're keeping in mind. But yeah, obviously as as you get further removed geographically from the area of impact, Northwest Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, et cetera, there's more area for the river system to absorb that surge of water. And so you kind of see that when you're seeing the projections of water levels. But obviously, again, it depends upon how much rain we get in the future. And we've got saturated soils right now, and we're going to be getting some additional rainfall. Obviously, that's something that we're going to have to keep monitoring.
Right. What's the situation on the Illinois River, Mike? Because it looks like the CME has decided that they may have to make some adjustments on delivery points for deliveries against futures contracts, at least for a short period of time. What's the situation on the Illinois?
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing, obviously what's getting all of the attention is what we've been talking about. But yeah, there's an abundance of water elsewhere in the country, and that includes the whole Illinois watershed. And so that's obviously having an impact on the viability of the Illinois River right now. So that's obviously one more thing to keep mindful of. Yeah.
Yep. No doubt. So, boy, I'm asking a lot when I'm asking this question. I understand this, Mike, but the outlook for the rest of the summer, what have you been able to put together, and what do you anticipate for the rest of the summer here?
Yeah, obviously the projections on what does the spigot from up high eventually get turned off and we no longer get rain. But I do anticipate that we will be in a overall a better, more period of normalcy when it comes to water levels on the Mississippi River and elsewhere, because you've got the soils that are pretty saturated. So you've got residual water that will continue to feed into streams and rivers and to help support navigation on the Mississippi and other rivers. In contrast, the last couple years where so much of farm ground was one big dry sponge. And so what that pretended to me is that's going to require a ton of water from precipitation in order to turn the tide. We at least have some good moisture in the soils. We obviously want to depart from the flooding, of course.
That's right. Mike, it's always informative to have a conversation with you. It puts a lot of things in perspective for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chip. Take care.
Hey, you bet. Mike Steenhoek, the executive director of the Soy Transportation Coalition. We're talking floods, and he went straight to rail, right where I thought he would. Davis and I will be right back.
The best talkers in ag, including you. Join the conversation on AgriTalk. Call us at 855-4TALK-AG. And welcome back to AgriTalk, everyone. Your pal Davis Michelson here with you on your, it's Thursday morning. Chip, I've been like a day off, like all week.
Yeah?
No, that's not actually quite true. I keep thinking that, like, even Monday, I was thinking, man, I'm ready for Friday. I'm so glad tomorrow's Friday.
Whoa.
I was thinking this on Monday. I've been thinking this every single day. Oh, at least tomorrow's Friday.
Holy smokes, you're into the dog days of summer already, aren't you?
We're finally there. Tomorrow really is Friday.
Man, are you going to be okay? Are you going to make it?
It hasn't even been that big of a week, you know? Just, you know what I mean? Well, I do know why I'm so excited for the weekend. I've got Royals tickets. We're going to see the Royals on Hawaiian Shirt Day on Saturday. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good.
Looking forward to it. We've been planning this a long time. It's going to be a great time. So that might have something to do with my my building excitement towards the weekend. That might be it.
So, Hawaiian Shirt Day?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
You best believe we're going to be there early, too. I'm getting one.
Oh, my goodness. What do you what are your expectations for the debate tonight?
I think it's going to be interesting. At first, I bristled a little bit with the mute button thing. Mm-hmm. But I did hear some commentary last night saying that might actually sort of work to temper some of the Trump fire before he can really get some momentum going and, sort of bully his way talking over questions or talking over the moderator and whatnot. They're just going to shut it down. That might actually help him to appear just a little less of a firebrand.
If they interrupt him with the mute button once.
Yeah, I know.
His ability to maintain composure through that is going to be tested.
If he can get through the first one, I think he can make it through the night. I think. If he can get over that first hump.
Well, and it a lot of it depends. A lot of it depends on the camera angles that they're going to be using on this too, as far as how people react to the use of the mute button. I mean, go back. Remember, was it? I believe it was Al Gore that could not stop rolling his eyes.
Yes.
In a debate.
Yep.
And they wouldn't take the camera off him, even though he wasn't saying anything. He was rolling his eyes like crazy. Big Apple Joe, if you remember that, jump in. But he was rolling his eyes so much that the public kind of turned against him.
Yep.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
There was that. I like when he walked up to then Governor Bush, and when the time was running out, and Bush just looked at him and gave him that curt nod. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, that's right. That is right. But here it is, June 27th, and we are already going to have the debate that, as far as I can tell, Davis, most are saying voters are going to make up their minds after tonight.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to wait for the October surprise. Let's see what they serve up for us. Whoever brings out the sexiest October surprise, maybe that's who I'll vote for. Maybe I'll go that way.
Well, and
it's too
the
soon
thing is, they are the presumptive nominees. They're not even the official nominees at this point.
That's right.
And so there's a lot of people. And the thing is, you look at the Democrat analysis on tonight's event, and they say, listen, the bar is set really low for former President Trump. All he has to do is not set his hair on fire, and he will probably, he'll do just fine.
They said something very close to literally exactly that. As long as he doesn't set himself on fire, he'll do okay.
Okay. All right. Well, and then you look at the Republican analysis going into the event, and they're saying, listen, the bar has been set unbelievably low for President Biden. He just has to maintain awareness of where he's at.
Yes. Just stay awake.
And he'll probably get good marks coming out of the debate. American voters, how did we allow the bars to be set so low for the debate, for the presidential debate?
Well, I'll tell you how. It's the division here, and the everybody's sort of stuck and entrenched in their own camps to already have made a decision by such a proportion of surveyed voters. Just tells us it doesn't really matter what happens in the debate. People have already made up their minds. I'm for this candidate. The other guy's a criminal. He sucks, and that's just the way it is. Minds are already made up, dude.
Yeah,
I'm not the least bit surprised.
And the thing is, I mean, both sides going into the debate tonight are going to use the other guy's a criminal.
Sure they do.
Yeah. I mean, that is bipartisan agreement comes in the fact that they believe the other guy is a criminal.
Yeah. And what we want to hear is, how are you going to make ice cream cheaper? Yeah. How are you going to make trade agreements? How are you going to deal with Vladimir Putin? These are the things that we need to be talking about. I don't care if either one of them is convicted of something. For crying out loud, our enemies are aligning together. Dude, this is Nerf ball, and we need to be playing the Super Bowl here right now.
Right.
Somebody needs to show up.
Right. Great take. Great take right there. We need to get, and it is going to be I think, Davis, it's going to be an impressive event. In other words, it's going to leave an impression on everyone.
Yes. Absolutely.
And because of that, man, I'm really looking forward to the conversation with the guys tomorrow morning on the free-for-all.
Yeah.
And
You're already looking forward to Friday, aren't you?
Yeah,
Huh?
oh, there you go.
See? I knew it all along.
I think there might be different reasons why we're looking forward to Friday. I'm
Maybe
not
so.
sure. I'm not sure. Oh, my gosh. That's so awesome. So awesome. All right. Thank you so much for listening today. We're going to have the free-for-all coming your way tomorrow morning. And this afternoon, we've got Jeff Peterson from Heartland Farm Partners right here on AgriTalk.